American reality star Kim Kardashian's new crime podcast has knocked Meghan Markle off the top of the Spotify rankings. Since its launch on October the 3rd, Kardashian's Spotify original podcast titled Kim Kardashian's The System, The Case of Kevin Keith, has overtaken Meghan's Archetypes in the US Spotify top podcast charts. Kardashian has widened the gap between Joe Rogan and Meghan, with The System charting at number 1 following its launch and remaining in the top 5 ahead of the Archetypes since then. But what is it that's pushing listeners to tune into Kardashian's podcast project over Meghan's? The interesting thing about Kardashian's podcast is the original big explosion in podcasting came at the end of 2014 when Serial came out, which is a true crime podcast. Matthew Passy, CEO of the podcast consultant, said, "Anyone can be interested in a true crime podcast, whereas to be interested in Meghan's podcast, you really have to be in a specific subset of the world to seek out that kind of content." Aside from content and genre, another key factor in drawing in podcast audiences is the host. When it comes to podcasts, people listen for the host or for the content. Ashley King, the creative director and founder of UK-based Flamingo Heights, said, "Everyone is offering something different. So in my opinion, while both Meghan and Kim might be competing in the top charts, both podcasts will be of interest." Meghan and Kim are both ordinary people who have had extraordinary lives, she continued. Their stories of fame and fortune may be of interest as rags to riches tales. While both of their fame has grown, it's important that Meghan and Kim use their privilege and social capital to uplift the voices of others and use their platform for good. I feel like Kim is doing this with her podcast. I'm undecided about Meghan's motives, although I do believe we all have the right to freedom of speech. There is also a difference in hosting styles between Kardashian and Meghan in the eyes of the audience. King said Kardashian has an openness about her, whereas Meghan has had to be more guarded. It's my view that Kim is much more open about her thoughts and opinions, and this does win loyal fans and supporters. Meghan has to be more careful about what she says, and she's judged with a much more critical lens in public opinion. Both women will attract listeners who both like and dislike them, and who wants to listen out of curiosity for whatever they might share. One royal fan commented, "It's about credibility, openness and depth with regard to Kardashian, which unfortunately Meghan's podcast fails to provide. Meghan's history of bullying in the royal family takes the sails out of her supposed support for women succeeding, particularly when it was female staff in the royal family who made the complaints of bullying in Meghan's service." Recently, Catherine, Princess of Wales and Prince William co-hosted Radio 1 to champion mental health awareness, and commentators have compared their hosting skills to Meghan Markle's podcast. Royal commentators and hosts of the podcast Royally Obsessed, Roberta Fiorotto and Rachel Bowie, said of Kate and William's radio stint, "It felt kind of thin to me if I'm being totally honest. I just thought there were a few actionable tips." There was a lot of talk about this mental health toolbox, and the words mental health kept being used, but I always want actionable steps. There was just a lot of flash. It was definitely produced and put together, but it comes back to wanting those next steps. It was a lot of style, but not a lot of substance, the host claimed. How did it compare to Meghan Markle's podcast? They continued, "I think we expect so much too, and I hate to compare because I know there's no real comparison, but with Archetypes, hearing Meghan and how proficient she is at podcasting, it really sets the bar so high for everyone else. For all of the royals. I think she's done an incredible job with Archetypes, but really, she has a lot more time and a lot more space for that."